coffee, that's okay, just so you can pay attention to this piece. I'm really, really happy to be here today with enough time, more than 3 minutes, to actually talk about not just what we do from the perspective of Elements.Cloud, which both myself and Adrian King standing here are from, but actually to talk about what drives this and the approach behind what we do. Because if you are an admin, if you are a very experienced admin, this is relevant to you. If you're a brand new admin, this is relevant to you. If you are a consultant implementing this, you will relate to so much of what we talk about. Even as David was talking about at the developer end, the coding end of this, there are things here. So this is genuinely something that we believe relates to a lot of different personas in very different ways. The beauty today is it's not just me talking about it. I'm one of the founders of Elements.Cloud, but we also have Adrian King, who is CTO of Elements.Cloud, co-founder. Is that the only way you're going to stay here today? Is it tied to the... But also is the person who I think... So who here was a Salesforce admin before 2001? Anybody? Hey, we found one. Okay, we've been doing this for a while. Excellent. Congratulations. So early days.
I've finally been top trumped.
But we were there right back in those days as a customer, I hasten to add. So for those of you who have a smartphone handy, there will be this up at the end as well to take a picture. But there's a bunch of resources here, not just the software that we're talking about, but we've been working a lot with the admin evangelist group inside Salesforce. So there are eBooks, there are different blogs that we've written with people. There are things that you can go to get more understanding of this, not least 2 eBooks. Today is based around kind of the Doing This Properly book, which is Chaos to Control. Working with a lot of clients and partners, there are a lot of people saying, we love this, it's fantastic, but I have no time in my org. I am so busy, I'm being pulled in 10 different directions at once. I need something where I can get real impact, real benefits really, really quickly. Okay, and that's what the Rapid Results book is there. Contact details for myself and Adrian at the bottom, but we should also have time for questions in this very intimate setting that we have here. So, before we dive into the 3 words that will make so much of a difference to you, as billed in the talk, it's worth talking about the life cycle that we believe we're supporting here. And to weave his story into this, I'd like to hand over to Adrian to talk through why we believe this is what everybody needs to be doing around Salesforce to a greater or lesser extent, and what is it that causes so much of the pain that people experience, and how do people get the benefits that they experience as well. So, Adrian King.
Thank you, everybody. So I actually want to go back in time to 2001, actually, when I started actually using Salesforce. Richard, Ian, a number of you know Ian, and myself were executives and founders in another company, doing, for those of you who know what we do, very similar things, but 1990s technology and aimed at the Global 500. So we took a decision to base ourselves on Salesforce to build out our own operation. And during the 10 years of doing that, went from 10 licenses to 100 and something licenses, all unlimited. Every single person in our organization had an unlimited license. As COO, I built the business on Salesforce. So I started to understand all the issues of a 10-year-old org and the journey of getting there. What we were providing with our previous company was a platform for people to be able to document how the business worked, and we were very focused at that point on SAP, because we were focused on the Global 500 and it was the dominant application platform. And we built support which allowed our clients to be able to link how their business operated, the business processes, to which bits of SAP were being used by those business processes, with the intention of answering two questions. If I go and change my business, which bits of SAP are affected? And if I go and upgrade SAP or make change to SAP, which bits of the business am I going to break? And these are really, really hard questions in most businesses to answer, actually. Big decoupling between actually what goes on in the business and actually how the IT works. What I realized was, for my own business, I desperately needed this as well, because we were running Salesforce, and we were growing very fast, constantly changing the way we operated. And what I actually needed to be able to understand was, as I changed the way our previous business worked, what do I have to go and change in Salesforce? We were constantly improving and doing things in Salesforce, and Rich will relate to this. There were a number of times when we actually stopped the business working properly because of a change we'd done in Salesforce. We sold the company 8 years ago, went and did various things, came back together again almost 4 years ago now. And I made it very clear to the guys that if we're going to come back to do something, I wanted to actually build some tooling to support admins and developers and Salesforce owners to actually be able to drive the life cycle that we had evolved for 10 years. And it was really simple. We actually got a really, really good process. It basically, either strategic changes or ideas were the front end of the process. So it might be ideas coming from our end users, or we might have a business initiative to change the way we operated. That drove some requirements. What we realized is most requirements were really badly formed and defined. So we got the requirement, we ended up doing a bunch of business analysis. Doesn't matter which way you go, you've actually got to understand what the impact that requirement has on your business. That surfaced the stories. What did we actually have to go and change? So we ended up going from requirement through the process and analysis to a set of stories, which we then used to configure the application. And we were very early users of stories to drive this. As a whatever role in the business, I want to give me an outcome. And the interesting thing was the processes drove those out really clearly. That resulted in our changes, and we tried to document them, but we ended up putting stuff into Google Drive, into a whole range of places. And it was probably the area of hindsight we were least good at, was systematically managing the documentation. We were quite good at writing user help, but again, trying to get that at point of need was a real problem. So when we came back together, basically those 4 blocks, the 3 purple and the 1 green, was what I was really focused on. Now, interestingly, when we started to take this to market, the problem we were getting was most people went, that's all very well, but I don't even understand what I've got in my org today. So a lot of the last year and a half has also been helping people understand what have they got in their org today. Before you can actually start documenting the new stuff, it would be really helpful to understand what you've got and document and understand it, clean it up and document it. That's been our mission. That's been my mission particularly. 10 years of experience of what we wanted. Today, we use Salesforce again. I've got an admin who now works for me, who lives and breathes what we offer. And it's made a real difference. We actually do understand what's in our org. And I think the really interesting thing is why we've got stuff in our org. I'm a developer. I can always reverse engineer what we've built. Actually, quite often, I will go and reverse engineer because it's the one way you actually understand what's been built. But a few months ago, Jack, who's my admin, and myself, we've been doing some work on changing a process and then some changes to some flows. That was on a Friday. We came back in on a Monday, and we looked at each other and went, what have we done? Why did we do it? If after 48 hours we can't actually remember why we'd done something, I can assure you after 6 months or 2 years when a different admin did it, you've got no idea why stuff has been configured the way it has in your org. That's basically the backdrop to what Rich is going to talk about of why we've built stuff. It really is. It's not difficult when you've got the tooling. We're trying to provide the tooling to help you do it out there. So back over to you, Richard.
So that's basically what drove us to understand that the approach that people needed and the words, the presentation I'm about to go through, is all about cleaning up, then documenting and driving adoption. Because we started out, as Adrian said, with the idea that if you can, you can drive adoption well from the beginning by finding out what it is that people really need as an outcome, documenting your requirements and stories very well, actually building that, and then, especially if they've been engaged through that process, they're more likely to adopt it going forward. The bit that was a bit of a curveball for us is the blue box, which is the cleanup. And as I said, that we almost had to stop, go back, and drive the cleanup side first to allow people, give them the time and give them the experience of being able to do this stuff, so that then they could start to build stuff properly. Partly because they're so busy, partly because Agile is all about, just do it, prototype it, show it to people, get their feedback directly. You can go straight in and change stuff. You don't need to document stuff. That's a big part of the kind of Agile mentality that's gone along with the same thing, which is the Salesforce focus on success, not software. But it is still software. It did strike us as more than slightly amusing being at Trailhead DX, that sassy walking around, success, not software, in a serious hardcore coding event, But you need to think about the disciplines that are here. Now, most people end up with, pretty quickly, something that looks like this. The wonderful double-edged sword that is Salesforce means it's powerful, it's flexible. You can change and do pretty much anything, which is fantastic. But when we talk to people, is it fair to say that that is a suitable emoji to represent people? I mentioned earlier, which is somebody was talking to us saying, yeah, when I'm working with my org, it does feel sometimes like I'm playing Jenga with my org, and that's something that's happening. And we set up a page. Take no credit for this. This is one of Ian Gotts's ideas. Let's stick an elements.cloud/confessions site that people can go anonymously and confess what's going on in their orgs. And there's some really interesting ones that come up. Go have a look yourself. You can see this stuff. Some of them are amusing, like running Trailhead in production. And there are plenty of things in there where, the obvious things, no naming conventions, fields that don't make sense, a unique profile for everybody. There's one that actually isn't on the site because somebody told me and said it was so sensitive they didn't actually want to write it down, but I can't say who it is. 7 figures spent on licenses and implementation, and the login statistics 1 year later are 55%. Stop and think about that for a second. From an adoption perspective, that means 45% of people are not using something that they've invested millions in. So what are they doing? What processes are they following? Where is that data being stored? What is actually happening in that organization? So, these are real world issues. And then on top of that, you have the ability as an admin to respond very helpfully to all these people who come up to you and go, fantastic, we got Salesforce. I love what you've done, but could you just ... Could you just automate this bit? Could we just tweak the validation rules on this so that it's not quite as restrictive? Or could we add another 6 pick list items because it's kind of, and so on and so forth and so on. And if you do all that without ever writing down anywhere why you did that, who came to you and asked you, who talked to you about this stuff, why was that done? What process are you actually supporting here? Does anybody even know the process that you're supporting here? These are basic things if you look back at the 40+ year history of implementing technology, but in lots and lots of cases, this double-edged sword of Salesforce hides that discipline. Now the beauty is, with the right tooling in place, with the right approach in place, you don't have to invest tons and tons of time. You don't have to boil the ocean. You don't have to, we often talk about this as like a 30,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. You don't have to sit down and go, stop, we've got to do the 30,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. It's never going to happen, right? You've got to be able to understand how to do this. So we, working with clients, working with partners, boiled it down to these three words to get from that concerned Jenga playing admin to the happy Ohana Salesforce dancing around, genuinely feeling happy about their org on the right-hand side there. So the 3 words, how, what, and why. When we're talking about how, we're talking about how does the business, how does the process, how do the people who are using Salesforce, how do they really need to use this? How does it work? Okay? When we talk about what, it's what is it that we have changed in Salesforce to fit. Hello? Yep. Oh, we got it back, good. What is it that people have changed to fit how people need to work? And the third one, Adrian has already mentioned, when we made those changes, why did we do them? What's the information that's there so easily lost? So the how is interesting. We did, as Adrian said, started out in this. I've just met somebody today who was at Dreamforce 16 when the admin evangelist group got us to run 12 live workshops at Dreamforce back in Dreamforce 16 in the admin zone. Little did we appreciate what a magnificent gesture that was. But it was all about process. And exactly as Adrian said, it's because if you don't have a clear picture of how your business works, it's very difficult to talk to people, to get everybody on the same page around what are we actually trying to achieve here. Now, you may do this another way. You may use PowerPoint, Lucidchart, frankly, whiteboards. Talking to another chap today, he says, ask for two things. He wants a separate screen so he doesn't have to work on a laptop as a consultant in the company, and he wants a whiteboard so that he can map out how stuff works when he's talking to clients. Whether you use this elements or whether you take pictures of whiteboards or do whatever you do, the key question is, how does this work? You're coming to me and talking about issue to resolution. How does that work? What do you want it to do? You don't just say, well, I understand there's a case object and it can handle this issue to resolution. Great. What is it you're trying to do? When does that happen on the input? Where are we starting this end-to-end picture? What's the output? What are we looking for? On the bottom of a box here, this is a very, very simple approach that we take. The resource. At the highest level, who's accountable for this end-to-end picture from issue to resolution? Who is the person who owns that? Is there one? If there isn't, interesting. And then you've got this colored in corner. What that means is you can right-click on a box, drill down new, and build the lower level detail. Now again, you don't have to do it this way, but this is a really simple, effective way of capturing the how. You can see in the top right corner of the slide there, you've got a whole bunch of things here, and if you look at the box, at the very least, get that high-level picture of your end-to-end flow, issue to resolution, qualified lead to close sale, or whatever it is that you're looking to automate here. And if the detail is documented in Google Docs, in Sheets, in Excel, in whatever, simply link it to the box, okay? But get that picture. Bottom left-hand corner, if you are creating a new bunch of custom objects and relating them to standard objects, right? Again, not trying to replicate or do away with Schema Builder. It's hugely powerful. It's also very difficult to use effectively because you can't attach anything to it. You can't notes on Schema Builder. You can't understand the architecture of what you built. Incredibly useful if you're just knocking together some new custom objects to put the notes of why are we building this and why do we have to have this custom object instead of, for example, just another record type of these standard objects there. And you can link anything to that to explain it as well. The other benefit here, which for those of you who voted in that 3-minute demo jam, thank you very much. Because you've got the ability to link documentation into not just the processes, but also into a tree structure of the metadata of what's going on inside Salesforce, you now have the power as well through a Chrome extension to actually surface that content inside Salesforce. So this same process you're going through as admins, as consultants, to get people to understand how they should be using Salesforce to support their business, you can now push that in context out to them inside Salesforce as well. So that's the how. The what is, for those of you who aren't aware, really where the managed package that you install from Elements Catalyst comes in. The what is basically the metadata that we pull out of Salesforce, and we give you this explorer view that you can drill into to understand whether it's down at specific custom objects, standard objects with custom fields, specific flows, Apex code, classes, triggers, whatever it is, you can start to document what's going on here. And you can do that by linking process content. You can do it by linking entity relationship diagrams, as we see there, but you can also link any of the things here. And by the way, there's even, if you go to the App Store and look, Elements Catalyst was showing today, you can go take a photo of a whiteboard, open the model on your phone, and attach the documentation straight there and then. Because this is the critical bit. Who here likes doing documentation? Oh, one person, well done. Yeah, I mean, I actually get a kick out of the value that we can add with it, but I can't honestly say that I really love doing it. We have to make it both simple and just part of habitual stuff. This is a lifestyle change to document stuff as you go. If you do it when you're making changes, it takes seconds. You've just had the little workshop, done the stuff on the whiteboard. If you can go, click, take the picture, open the model, attach it to the 3 objects or the new fields that you're doing or the new flow that you're about to go and build on the back of that, boom, fantastic, attached, done. If documentation is that simple, it's more likely to happen. And that's the kind of stuff that you're able to do in this context. So the other thing, because we have all the metadata coming across, is that we can do a whole bunch of analysis. So yeah, you've got 15 record types on a particular object, or significantly more than that. They were added for good reasons. Clearly, you haven't documented why they were added, but they were probably added for good reasons. But now that we're trying to clean stuff up, understanding that of those 15 record types, 7 of them haven't actually been used, or they've got such a tiny amount of information in that you then start going, looking at it, realize that they haven't been used for more than 2 years, you can start to clear up those record types. The ability to see where are fields used, which fields, again, have been added but aren't used, which multiple fields on page layouts have been added, but I don't even understand what the API names of them to go and start digging into them. How can we get quickly in to understand which stuff I can take off a page layout? You know, as many people in Salesforce say, if you want to clean stuff up, remove it from the page layout, wait a few weeks. If nobody screams, you can probably delete it, right? But wouldn't it be great to be able to understand really quickly in a new org that you're going into as a consultant or as an admin coming into an org that you're inheriting, to really understand very quickly, okay, this is what's really being used, this is the shape of what I've got here, therefore I can already start to identify where I'm going to be able to clean up and do some things. And the final bit there is, as Adrian was saying, is the why. You know, the why is so critical here, and just, I'm not going to go back over what Adrian said on this, but for those of you who didn't maybe twig on what he said, it's the what has happened you can re-engineer. You can actually get into and understand, reverse engineer, this is what's happened. The why is almost always pretty hard to understand if you have no documentation. What's worse is if the people who did it are no longer there, it's really, really hard. And I've been talking to a number of consultants here today going in to help try and fix orgs who are saying they simply cannot find anybody in the company that they're working in who claims to have been involved in any of the customization that's been done, right? Hence the Jenga comment about what can we remove and change and do all this kind of stuff. So the hands-on stuff, drinking our own champagne, as we said, is really what I want to take you into now. So let me just go into oops, I should have come out of this first. Right. Right. So the first thing to say, for those of you who, okay, this should be mirroring right now. It's clearly not. Hello, anybody in the AV side? We're, in terms of screens, it should be mirroring. Okay. Yeah, it's correct on there, so. Okay, while he sorts that out, because that should be, just double check. BMD HDMI. Which one? I've done both. Mirror built in and mirror.
I'll have a look. Display 1080i, 50 hertz.
Okay, while they're sorting that out, what, you got it? Excellent. So there are two things around this. The stuff that we were talking about here, when you're doing all the capturing of the how, the process mapping and everything else, you can do that sitting outside in the Elements Catalyst app. And you can do that both in terms of the process side, but also in terms of what we call the Salesforce Orgs. And the way that it works is, if you think about how Slack works, yeah, and things like that, you have a space, a team space. Elements Catalyst is very similar. It's just, it works on the basis that you have a login for all of the spaces that you're associated with. Those spaces have users, they're paired with different orgs. You can actually, if you're a consultant sitting here, you can have a space per client. If you are a client, a customer working with Salesforce, you would have a single space, typically, that is then paired with your production org and multiple sandboxes. There are different levels of spaces for right up to people who've got 8, 20 plus orgs. You can do that at Enterprise or Unlimited, but we're basically talking about a pro space. Before I dive into this, all of you here today could go away from here and start a pro trial and play around with all this stuff. I'm not expecting you to take my word for it. It's much more powerful when you're looking at your own org and looking at this stuff in that context. But in the context of a space, the process information, the stories, the requirements, everything is built in here. But I'm going to go into the Salesforce org model. And what you get, as I said before, is effectively a tree structure. And that tree structure is something that you can drill into to go down into detail and look at the usage. But before I go there, I want to go and launch Salesforce Org Analytics. And this is a big button here, which when we go and do the sync, we are going and getting a ton of information on your org, and we're putting it up there for you. And kind of the gauntlet I'm throwing down to you is, even if you end up not buying our software, if you go and plug this into a full sandbox or your production org, you can get a whole bunch of information out of this for free to help you at least around some of the cleaning up and prioritizing of what you're doing. And so if you click on that button to launch Salesforce Org Analytics, what it gives you is insights into what have I got, what's changed since the last time that we synced, and I can look at those trends to, if I want to show people what we're actually doing over a period of time, if I want to look, for example, over the last year, you can see how we've gradually been increasing in complexity. We installed a managed package, it dumped fields all over the place and custom objects and all sorts of stuff. We decided not to go ahead with it. We got rid of that managed package, so that's back down, but we've had that gentle area up here. If I want to, if you're a customer and you've got consultants who are going, yeah, we've documented your org, all the documentation's there, you can do some interesting things like basic stuff. The org probably doesn't look like this. This is our production org. You would hope that it's pretty well documented. The reason that you won't see the descriptions around flows is because we do all that. We explain what those are and do the process side and talk about the context of what we do. But you can see there, most of what we're doing, apart from standard reports and things that are chucked in there by other managed packages, pretty well documented. Most clients we go into, these are all in the red. Okay? Even people who say, yeah, we filled in all the descriptions, we did all that stuff. Not really the case. So, but I can also look at things like org size and usage, percentage filled for all fields in an object. So you're looking at an object, you want to go clean up an object, being able to look at, in that particular account object, how many fields are filled in above 75% of the time. how many between 75% of 50, between 50 and 25, below 25. You get a very quick graphical view across your org. Records by object, that's a very popular one for people cleaning up their orgs. I've got all these objects that people ask me to fill in. Interesting. Now, for us, pretty clean org, those zeros, not many of them. Most clients that we go into, there are pages of fields. You know, people come into us saying, I'm bumping up against the extra limits. We've got 800 limits on our case object. Run this report. Vroom. Huge amount of zeros. All right, so some really quick wins, quick, easy things that you can look at that. We do a little bit of impact analysis on things, and again, the impact analysis is, if it's filled in more than 3% of the time, probably it's a green field. It may be edge cases at times, but it's a field that's being used. Less than 3%, amber warning. 0, red, good opportunity. Might be a formula field, might be other reasons why you can't delete it, but a pretty good candidate to go and look at things that you might want to delete there. So you can see again things that are here. So I'm not going to go on about this because you can go and play with this on your org. Go and play with it. Go and look at the insights. You can always export this to PDF, walk away with an understanding of where you are. The consultants here amongst you, we have people doing this all the time with their clients where they go in and do the work. They say, look, you can have all this stuff for free. If you want to maintain it going forward, it's, you know, you need one editor on this to keep it alive, which is like $730 a year, or another way of looking at a couple of dollars a day, to keep all the knowledge that we're starting to gather together. So it's very, very low entry point to this. So in terms of this tree, what it allows you to do is you can go into specific objects. You can look at, or even at if I start at, let's take an obvious one here, like opportunity. So if I go into opportunity, there's, in our case, it's, you know, these are the different things that we're actually using here. If I look at the record count, I can start to get an idea of what are the different records that we're actually using, what's being used here, how does it work. If I want to understand how it works, I can go from really simple stuff, as I showed a little earlier on, in terms of training information, but also in terms of the how that we described. If I want to, for example, how do I process a monthly credit card payment, that process is associated with this specific node. So it's quite a complex process. All of that detail is associated here. If I want to go and drill into this is the full working app that I launch here. Now, if I want to, as we saw before, describe information, so I might have, you know, sitting in here, I might, in opportunity, I might want to go down to look at specific record types. So we have this add-on opportunity. Why did we produce that? Here is the add-on opportunity record type. Pretty simple notes. This is not about writing tomes. This could be a simple 2 sentences of, we created this record type for the following reasons. More than fits in a Salesforce description, or it could be a photo of the whiteboard, or it could be a combination of them all. The idea here is to very simply document and explain what's going on here. So going down into record types, into flows, into so on, you get the picture. I don't want to hammer this home too much, but if I want to go look at and understand in terms of fields, I've got a couple of different ways that I can do this. I could do this by looking here, as you see, the field impact level, and start to look at fields that are, first of all, custom fields, low budget confirmed, what's the actual usage on that. When I look at the usage, you can see 0 usage. We're looking in these 15 places for you, even the 40 different places you need to look in, for example, Process Builder workflows. This is not actually used anywhere. So again, I can go back to documentation and I can tag this as can delete. Now, what does that mean? Well, all the way you're going through this, you can start tagging things as you're learning stuff about it. It could be to be investigated, to talk to Bob about, to do whatever you might want to do, but as you're going through, you're tagging, and you can report across your whole org and say, right, here's my working list of what I'm doing. So I haven't actually said it yet, but this is about pulling together and constantly building up the tribal knowledge of what's going on around the org, be it the formal things like the requirements, the stories, the documentation, the why, but also the living institutional knowledge about how does this work, what are we doing, what's potential here to clean up, what's potentially there to be deleted. We've had a lot of people who've done this for years using utilities like Fieldtrip. How many people here have used Fieldtrip? All right, just a couple. So if you're cleaning up orgs, it's been about the only game in town in terms of it's a utility, you set up and you run queries and you go and do it. We actually challenged some people who've done it for ages to say, what's the benefit here, guys? Because you're experts in this. And they came back and said, on average, it was between 3 and 5 times faster to do it here. Plus the benefit, they said, is because this is syncing every night, they're getting more and more information all the time as they're going through this. So all of this is great, and you can see how I can get into usage. I can identify the things, discovery completed, another one here. Again, usage, looking in 15 different places, not used. All right, that's all great, but what if I want to do this actually inside Salesforce? Well, this is where the Chrome extension comes in, because I can do this in the context of, for example, let's just go to Object Manager, and a good opportunity here to show you. I don't know if you see the little purple square in the top right of the screen here. It takes literally seconds to go, and you can do it from our website, you can do it from the Chrome store. You just install this Chrome extension, and if you toggle it to show Catalyst in setup by default, it'll open the right panel and surface all the information I've been looking at. So if we go into a simple standard object-like account, to show you the different places that we're looking here, here I am in setup. Everything I've just been showing you inside Catalyst is there in the right panel. All the usage stats, right? I can go and look, if I want to go into, look at the record type stuff, it's all there. All the fields and relationships. If I want to go into, let's pick one that's obviously going to be in a lot of different places, and you can see what we're doing and where it's going, usage, and you can see the kind of thing that it's doing here. It's used in these 3 Apex classes, 4 email templates, field sets, flows, etc. If I want to go, okay, I'm interested in where account is impacting the different flows, well, here are all the flows. If I want to go and look at, create an add-on opportunity from space, I can click there. It will open it up in Salesforce in exactly the right place. Now, even if all you look at from a benefit perspective is the 3 clicks here, the 5 clicks there, the, oh my God, where do I find that in other places, this is constantly chipping away and saving so much time and making visibility here. Now, in terms of, as we talked about earlier, we will be building this in a Lightning context, but right now, even a Lightning page, if you want to understand a bunch of fields that are there, if you switch over into, so if I've got a field here in account called status, I can go and identify these individually, but by looking at on a page, and many of you might have pages that are quite messy with lots of fields on them, being able to understand what have I actually got here is really, really useful. So the ability to go back to my Chrome extension and click on Show, and as I appreciate some of you are squinting at smaller screens here, what that's actually done is stuck a little Elements logo next to all the fields in Salesforce. Okay, as I said, it's in a classic view, but it's the same context here, and it will be coming in Lightning. Now, this is an example. There are 3 fields called status. Okay? Now, I can tell you if you drill into them that they've got different pick lists, they've got different things, but they're all called status. So what do they do? Well, if I click here in line in the view, I've got all that right-hand panel that pops up. I can go and look at the usage, and I can go, right, okay, this one's actually been used. It's used in those 2 page layouts, these 5 reports. I can go and dig into those and realize, actually, that's still valid. Whereas these 2, when I go look at usage, nothing. It's on a page layout. That's interesting. I wonder what else in that page layout is not there. Well, it's clearly this one, but here, again, usage. I can go back to documentation back to my tag, go and do my can delete. Boom, that's another one added to the list, identified that I can actually go and delete here. So I'm giving you just some tidbits of this. The key thing here is all of this stuff, you can go to the App Exchange, you can install this into ideally a full sandbox or your production org. We're not touching your data, we're purely pulling the metadata out into that tree structure, and then you get that analytics report that you can save as a PDF. You've also got the ability here to go and run reports in here. So even if, as somebody asked me earlier, for a particular client, if I want to, can I get all of this information out? Well, yes, you can do percentage filled, field access, field usage, node lists, and export it to Excel. Not hugely useful because it's just a snapshot in time, but you can do all that for free during the pro trial period. So the final thing I want to finish on is just the adoption side, because we talked about cleanup, we talked about document, and we talked about adoption. Well, this whole documentation hub that you've got effectively sitting now at the heart of Salesforce, what it allows you to do as well is go and position this content for end users. So if I if I want to make a particular, let's go back to Object Manager. And we'll go to Opportunity. You can see that in the same way, if I go into the details here and toggle this right panel on, and we look at documentation, all the documentation of why and all that stuff is great, but I can also make this, and for those of you that can't see, the little blue line there says visible as help in Lightning, in Classic or Lightning. So I can actually take some documentation and say, show this in Classic mode, show this in Lightning mode. Obviously, there are lots of objects where there's different help for people who are exposed to in Classic mode versus Lightning. So you can have all the help attached here, and if they open it in Classic, it's explained how to do it. If they open it in Lightning, they get the new UI, they also get the benefit of all the quick actions and all the other wonderful stuff that's sitting there and how to use it. Now, the beauty is, from an end user's perspective, I did see the sync had failed there. So where you see normally the little gray icon, help icon, which has the Salesforce help, you still have those, but where there is additional help, it's turned purple. And it means you can add documentation onto it. Even if it's simple help like this, what is this field for? How do we use it? Why did we create it? Or if it's much more interesting help, like, okay, I'm brand new, what's the context in elements of space and opportunity management for us as a business? Well, this is actually the Google slide deck that we used to use to train people coming into doing stuff. When we made this available, it took a matter of about 2.5 hours for our admin Jack to get all our training material into Salesforce, so that all the different customizations we've done are all now visible. How do we deal with opportunities? What's a space? How do we create an initial opportunity? How do we add products? How do we do this? It's now available in line for the customer. Process information that we talked about, again, accessible directly here, right? And again, full working capabilities. If you want to put the processes in the utility bar so that they pop up and you've got the working map here, you can absolutely do that as well. Sorry, I just clicked on that. So, full working, full application sitting there inside Salesforce. If you want to stick that in a component and make it part of explaining to people how to do stuff, you can do it there as well. So, whatever documentation you are creating that is useful for people, you can expose it in Salesforce. You can link to it, all the stuff that you've been doing already. And as I showed a little earlier, if you've got situations here where you want to, you want to feed back to people, or you want your end users to be able to feed back stuff here, they can literally, anywhere that little purple eye is, leave feedback and say, under what circumstances do we do blah, 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 post, and that will go back to the admin, whether it's about the help, whether it's about the field, whether it's about more pick lists, whatever it is, okay? So a ton of stuff here that you can do. The final thing is adding that stuff is literally a case of being able to go in, you can add documentation, you simply make it available as help, you push a button and it's done. Okay, so this can go in seconds, literally documentation, visible as help in Classic Lightning, select it, push it out, and it's done. Okay, so I want to thank you for your time here today with us. If you have questions about this and would like to talk to us, we are sitting at the booth in the corner. Very happy to take questions over there. In terms of final thing, anything you post in any org is immediately available in the others, because we're talking about the implementation. I did this in my trial in the sandbox. Now do I have to start again in thing when I'm doing it in my production? Absolutely not. It's immediately available across all of those. So come and talk to us. Very happy to have conversations with you. The ebooks, as we talked about here, are available to download. You can flick through the Chaos to Control one up here by all means. Just time to say that you should join us for drinks at 6 o'clock, sponsored by 4C. So again, if we see you then, very much look forward to that. I want to thank you for your time, thank Adrian for your contribution, and look forward to speaking to you as we go forward. Thanks a lot.